Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages.
Hi, I'm John Sitton.
Hello, I'm Rob Perez.
Christian Carambeu.
Welcome to your footballing fix.
Pitch Talk.
Pitch Talk.
Pitch Talk.
We've got football videos on YouTube, blogs, debates and discussion on Facebook and Twitter.
Plus we do a podcast and so much more.
It's we the people, for the people.
For our videos, including our interviews and special features, check out youtube.com/Pitch Talk.
Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Podomatic, TuneIn Radio, and Spreaker, with older podcasts on mixcloud.com/Pitch Talk.
Join the football revolution, because the pitch is where we eat,
The pitch is where we sleep.
And the pitch is where we talk.
Join us on social media by searching for Pitch Talk. Hey everybody, Straight Shootin LJA here, and welcome to another episode of the Straight Shootin View. Now, you know what? In this episode, I just want to look at it's quite a big dispute in the women's game. The Northern Ireland women's team have been demanding recently a meeting with the Irish FA about basically a plea for adequate pay in terms of covering expenses. Which, on the surface, sounds like a very, very fair request. It's if you're working for a company or you're representing a company and you're an employee, one of them ones. If you go to say an off-site meeting, something like that, you have to pay for travel, you get that reimbursed, or the company pays for everything and covers it. Now, I very much think that if the males are getting that kind of treatment in the Northern Irish game, like for their international team, you're representing the international team. So on them was it's only fair that the women are representing the international team too. They get the same treatment. But you know what? It is one of them ones where apparently the Northern Ireland women's team are actually being left out of pocket. By I think they're actually having to pay their own expenses going from game to game for internationals. And obviously, if you're traveling around Europe, it's one of them that's going to start racking up in terms of cost. So if the Irish FA are not covering it, it's a bit of a pee take, to be perfectly frank, because you know they blatantly cover it for a lot of the men's games, if not all of the men's games. So it's a case of, it's not the first time we're seeing basically women's international football and pay disputes, because recently the Danish women's international team, I think it was the back end of 2017. I think it actually started in like September, where there was a bit of a dispute over pay there as well, which was resolved because, well, I think largely because there was the kind of bargaining chip that the Danish women had in regards to a World Cup qualifier that they had to play. And if they didn't fulfill that fixture, then the powers that be might have come down a little harshly and been like, well, there's deducted points, there's fines, and potentially you're going to get thrown out of the tournament anyway. So it's one of them was the Danish Football Association. I think ended up making a deal, and it's like, okay, cool. We'll help subsidize your wages in that. But the fact is, I said you had that with the Danish side. I think that lasted from like September until November of 2017. But also it happened with the Norwegian women's international side as well, who were campaigning for equal wages. Now the difference with the Norwegian situation is the fact that yes, they actually did obtain the same wages as their male counterparts, but it is one of them ones where the Norwegian men's team basically saw the injustice and took a pay cut to facilitate that. So that was kind of an interesting way of going about it, to be perfectly frank. And I think with you got to look at, I look at it this way: with the astronomical amounts that the men's players are making at club level, it's one of them. The Norwegian example looks even more interesting because one of them was, if you're making astronomical amounts at club level, it's only fair that you help another part of the game. If you're helping the women's international team, fine. I actually have no problem with that. If anything, I'd encourage it because it's growing another part of the game, and football is supposed to be inclusive, not exclusive. And if it's only the men getting paid the big bucks, but the women are representing exactly the same teams and exactly the same thing, then why not make the pay a little more even? Because making that pay a little more even, and also investing more into the women's game as well, same with the grassroots game, it's a case of it helps development. It helps that. So and also looking at it in somewhat of a cynical way, no one can afford bad PR. These days, no football club can afford bad PR. Whether it's not paying women equally or a racial abuse case, and anything along those lines, most teams cannot. Most teams, clubs, entities, whatever, cannot afford bad PR. But one thing I do like about the Norway women's team stepping up, the Danish women's team stepping up, and also the Northern Irish women's team stepping up as well and saying, yeah, we should be paid to cover, at least to cover our expenses, if not equally to our male counterparts. It's a case of, I believe, if you see wrong, you say wrong, or else it will stay wrong. And you've got to give them credit for speaking up, because if you want an injustice to be sorted, you have to speak up about it. Not just once, you have to keep on speaking up about it until that injustice is rectified. You can't change or undo what's been done in the past, but you can build bridges and rectify it. So it's one of them ones. I'm actually glad these women's teams are speaking up about it, because it's a case of, it shows how deep your convictions lie if you're willing to put your neck out on the line and be like, no, this is an injustice. This is not fair. And that's one of the key things. Fair. If you're both playing the same sport, yeah, the levels might be a bit different. I'm not going to deny that, and I don't mean that with any disrespect to the women's game. Yes, the levels are different, but how are the levels ever going to end up similar or the same? How are they ever going to end up? How are they ever going to end up that way if they're never given the chance to? It's like Chelsea Football Club and what's it, the 35 players that they've got out on loan. How do you know they're not good enough for the top level if you never give them a chance? If you don't give a plant a chance to grow, how do you know what it's going to grow to? That would be the way I would look at it in regards to that. And it's a case of, yes, with the men's game, there is always going to be that disparity between the men's and women's game in terms of pay, because of, look at the cash cow or the draw that the men's game is in comparison to the women's game. But at the end of the day, it takes time to build it. The women's game can be a massive draw as long as it's given the time to build, and the same mistakes are not made that have happened in the men's game, such as corruption, such as botched appointments. Look at the Mark Sampson incident. It's one of them ones. We discussed that on a Pitch Talk podcast, and years ago we were like, yeah, hopefully the FA don't make the same mistake with the men's game, with the women's game that they have with the men's game. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that these pay disputes are coming up, because it's forcing people to look at what is really going on. It is forcing people to look at, wait, hold on, there's a disparity here. Let's see if we can't even it out. Let's see if we can't help this side of the game grow, as well as still kind of promoting and obviously helping the men's game become all it can. But the fact of the matter is, as said, it's a case of you're helping another area of the game grow, and in the women's game, you see a lot of the women as ambassadors, as role models, which I've always said that in the men's game, most male footballers if they had a brain, they'd be out playing with it. It is one of them ones, but in the women's game, it is different. It is a different animal. The tribalism, the out and out tribalism of the men's game isn't there. To an extent, the idiocy isn't there. But also, it's a case of it's a growing game, it's a developing game, and these women can be an inspiration to others who will see an injustice, whether it be pay or otherwise, and they will speak up and out against it. So that's where I sit. That's where I sit on that one. I think it's a good thing that all these sides are stepping up. But you know what? That's my view on it. I'd like to know your view. Comment section is below. Leave a comment. I'd love to know what you think about this. Do you think these pay disputes in the women's game, do you think they're a good thing? Do you think they're a bad thing? Do you think they're complaining about nothing? Do you think they've got every justification in the world to complain about pay? It's one of them ones. Keep me posted. But as I said, comment section is below. I have been Straight Shootin LJA. Remember, you can find me at SSLJA on Twitter. Also at Pitch Talk on Twitter. Tweet with us, follow us, see what we are up to. Facebook.com/Straight Shootin LJA as well. Find me, find my page on there, man. Straight Shootin LJA. I'm also Liam LJA Angel on Facebook as well. But you know what? I've been Straight Shootin LJA. And until next time, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Straight Shootin View. See you next time, peeps.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages.
Hi, I'm John Sitton.
Hello, I'm Rob Perez.
Christian Carambeu.
Welcome to your footballing fix.
Pitch Talk.
Pitch Talk.
Pitch Talk.
We've got football videos on YouTube,
Blogs, debates and discussion on Facebook and Twitter.
Plus, we do a podcast and so much more.
It's we the people, for the people.
For our videos, including our interviews and special features, check out youtube.com/Pitch Talk.
Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Podomatic, TuneIn Radio, and Spreaker, with older podcasts on mixcloud.com/Pitch Talk.
Join the football revolution, because the pitch is where we eat.
The pitch is where we sleep.
And the pitch is where we talk.
Join us on social media by searching for Pitch Talk.